Hey everyone, welcome to Lesson 8 of Theme 3 GCSE Geography. We're going to look at the final tectonic hazard today, which is volcanic eruptions. We're going to use our empathy skills first off, which means putting yourself in someone else's shoes and imagining what something would really be like to experience. By watching a video of the Mount Merapi volcanic eruption on the Southeast Asian islands in Indonesia. We're then going to summarize information from a selection of sources to create a case study about this eruption. And again, we're going to look at the factors that affect the vulnerability of the island that Mount Merapi sits on. So pause the video here a moment as usual and get down today's title so we can get going. Okay, so first off, what I'd like you to do in this lesson folder on Moodle on the study zone, there's a video called Starter Video, and I'd like you to watch that and make a list of 5 emotive words. Now, an emotive word is a word that is a describing word, usually an adjective, that's linked to your emotions. So things like horrific, horrendous, disastrous, or spectacular, something that's really emotive as a describing word. Just a heads up, there are some images in this slideshow that they do show some bodies of dead livestock, and there are a couple of images of bodies of people covered by ash. So if you think that might be a little bit much, don't watch the video, we can just skip past that. But otherwise, pause this video here a moment, watch that one please, and make a list of 5 emotive words. Okay, so you should now have a bit of a feel for the volcanic eruption that we're talking about. There is a case study sheet that goes with this lesson that again is on the Study Zone lesson page. Now, if you've got a printer at home, you would be able to print this, but obviously only in A4 size, and it might still then be a little bit too small to write on. So it's no problem at all. What I would suggest is actually just writing these subheadings as we go along in your book. So location, draw a map and describe the location. Cause, you could just write a paragraph to explain how the volcanic eruption happened, and so on. Okay, so you don't necessarily have to print this out. What you're going to do for each of those sections, so there's 4 sections to this case study: location, cause, effects, and response. For each of those sections, you're going to use the sources that go with the lesson. Now, these are in a PDF document on the Moodle page. To talk about the location, use these 3 sheets. And what I want you to do is draw a sketch map to show the location of Mount Merapi on the Indonesian island of Java. So you would draw, as best you can, your own version of this map and label it up. These 2 maps just give you a bit of context as to exactly where this is to help you describe it. Now, when you describe a location, you always start big and work your way in. What continent or ocean is it in, and what area of that continent? So starting big here, we're in Asia, and we're in Southeast Asia. We're on a plate boundary between the Indo-Australian plate and the Eurasian plate. So this is actually the same plate boundary that caused the Boxing Day tsunami that we looked at in the other lesson. The Boxing Day tsunami was caused by an earthquake that happened right there. There's the Indonesian island, and Banda Aceh is right there. So we're down here now on another Indonesian island, Java. So it's on a tectonic boundary in the Indian Ocean. So anything along the lines of, it's on the island of Java in Southeast Asia in the Indian Ocean on a plate boundary between the Indo-Australian plate and the Eurasian plate. Okay, and there's your volcano. So this is caused by a destructive boundary. The Indo-Australian plate is going this way, and the Eurasian plate is trying to come this way, and they're crashing into each other. Indo-Australian is oceanic, so it is subducted beneath the Eurasian, which is continental. And that leads us into the next section, which is causes. So you're going to need these 3 to fill in the causes box and the products of the eruption box. A product is something that comes out during a volcanic eruption. Now, Mount Merapi is very destructive. It's a stratovolcano. You get lava flows, you get volcanic bombs, and you also get what's called a pyroclastic flow. On the Moodle page with this lesson, there's a video clip of a pyroclastic flow. These are the worst things that could possibly come out of a volcanic eruption. This is what covered Pompeii. They travel at hundreds of miles an hour and can be several hundreds of degrees Celsius. And if this catches you, you did for sure. Okay, definitely. Lava flows, like we said, quite often you can outrun or certainly outdrive a lava flow, but a pyroclastic flow is going to get you. And what these list of words give you is, in the correct sequence, a list of words for you to write a paragraph to describe, to explain what caused the eruption. So the Indo-Australian plate is subducting beneath the Eurasian plate at a destructive plate boundary. The oceanic crust is more dense, so it is subducted beneath the continental crust. Oh, that should say more dense. Oh, you could say the continental crust is less dense. The oceanic Indonesian crust melts in the mantle and creates extra molten rock that rises and burns through the continental crust to create a volcanic eruption. You can see that's what's happening here. So again, whoops, a daisy. Indo-Australian plate is subducted beneath the Eurasian plate because it is more dense, or the Eurasian plate is less dense. The subducted oceanic crust melts in the mantle, burns through the continental plate to form a volcanic eruption. So feel free to listen to that again if you need to when it comes to this section. And the products of the eruption, it tells you in these little boxes all the stuff that was spewed out during the eruption. To talk about effects, you need these pictures. Now again, apologies if this is a little bit hard hitting, just put it to one side in the resources or turn it over. This is part of the case study sheet that if we were doing this in class, it would be on the case study sheet and we just color code them. But if you don't have a printer, you might need to write these out instead. So just put a subheading effects, write out this table, and then color code them. Ones that are primary effects, so things that happen straight away, and ones that are secondary effects, so things that happen in the coming weeks or days. Some of these you might think are potentially half and half. So for example, this one here, 237 people were killed, that's straight away. 577 injured, that's straight away. But roads were damaged, I should say, classic typo, making it difficult to get help to those in need, medical care, tents, blankets. So that's going to increase the death toll as the days go on. So you might colour that one half primary, half secondary effects, and make yourself a little key as well. Alternatively, if you're writing them out into your book, you could put a subheading primary effects and another subheading secondary effects, or make two sides of a table like that and sort them under the two subheadings as you write them. But that might be a little bit problematic when a single statement, like I said, is kind of a bit of both. So I'd suggest copy it out as it is and then colour code it with a little key. And then finally, response. So this is the source you need for response. What countries sent aid? What kind of aid did they send? Was it humanitarian? Anything human? Doctors, they bring with them food parcels, temporary shelters like tents, medical supplies. That's what we call humanitarian aid, anything that's going to directly help humans. Or was it monetary aid? So were countries giving money, and how could the island of Java use that money to recover? So just bullet points is fine for the response section. Okay, so pause the video here a moment. Here is a summary of how to fill in each of the subheadings using the sources that I've just run through. This will easily take you quite a while, certainly a full lesson, maybe into a second hour. So take your time and fill it in lots of detail, please. Okay, so let's talk about the vulnerability of Java. Now, if I end the show here a second and go into Google Earth, so where we're talking about, here's us in the UK. If we travel over the Middle East, over the... Whoa, calm down. Where have we gone? All right. The mouse pad on this laptop is super sensitive. Right, so we were over here just the other day when we were looking at the Boxing Day tsunami. So that's where that earthquake happened. And here's that same plate boundary between the Indo-Australian plate and the Eurasian plate here. And here is Mount Merapi on the island of Java. Now, the Southeast Asian Indonesian islands, they're all LICs. So straight away, when it comes to factors affecting vulnerability, you're going to have any factors linked to development, poor quality housing, people living in shanty towns, etc. And we know those are two factors that increase the vulnerability from that big spider diagram that we did. Java is also an island. So again, similar to when we looked at Haiti, that will increase your vulnerability because evacuation is more difficult, getting help onto the island is more difficult. Okay, and the part of the world that we're in, the equator is here. Okay, so you're only just south of the equator. This is going to be pretty warm in terms of climate, possibly with a wet monsoon type season at some point in the year. And what that is going to mean is if we revisit the spider diagram on factors affecting vulnerability that we looked at before, it's an LIC. So poor quality houses, no warning systems, no money to rebuild. The cities on the island are probably very densely populated due to lack of planning permission. The location, it's an island. The climate, it's tropical. These ones wouldn't massively apply. You probably would have some shantytown dwellers as well, living in really poorly constructed shacks. So when it comes to Java being really vulnerable to the impact of tectonic hazards, it's very vulnerable for several reasons. Okay, so its location, being an island, would mean. The climate, having a distinct wet season and warm climate, would mean. The development, we know we've looked at this previously. Now there's a Word document that goes with this lesson on the Moodle page. I think it's called Java Vulnerability Factors or something like that. If you read that, coupled with your prior knowledge on factors affecting vulnerability, you should be able to write a few sentences for each of these bullet points to explain why an LIC island nation like Java would be very vulnerable to the impact of tectonic hazards like eruptions from Mount Merapi. So read that source, use your prior knowledge, write some sentences for each of these, please. You can copy and complete this slide just as it is. Okay, and that concludes lesson 8. Now we've only actually got one lesson left as part of theme 3, unfortunately, because it's an optional theme, it's a little bit shorter, which is a shame because tectonics is super interesting. So we've got one more lesson to go around the 3 Ps, predict, protect, prepare, which you can use when you're talking about factors affecting vulnerability to talk about those 3 methods in more detail. So I'll see you soon for lesson 9. As usual, drop me an email if you need anything.